you so much. Brian actually mentioned interviews. For any of you who don't know, we actually have a media center on the other side of this floor, fully equipped for any interview need that you need. So feel free to use it. We are running a bit late, a bit behind schedule. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's good. It means it was interesting, but bad. We have a schedule to keep up with. So I would like to call upon the next panel, which will be moderated by Maayan Hoffman, who is a strategic communications consultant and the head of conferences at the Jerusalem Post. And she will be moderating the panel titled Hasbara, Marketing or Public Diplomacy, What Needs to be Explained? And they will be discussing the UN vote as the case study for these what needs to be explained for these explanations. And part of the panelists would be, we have Ophir Dayan, who's an activist and a media personality. We have Snir Dolev, who is the director of the Israeli Center for Young Leaders, and Hanania Naftali, who's an activist and social media influencer. I doubt anyone here hasn't come across his posts on social media. And Dina Ravner, who is the legal advisor for UN Watch. Please.
Great. Well, we're very excited for this. I talk fast, so don't worry. We'll catch up on some time. But I want to start because the panel is talking about Hasbara, which is a word that is a Hebrew word, and it doesn't have an easy definition. So I just wanted to ask all of our panelists first to give us some insight, one sentence or two, into how we define Hasbara. Why don't we start with you, Ophir?
First of all, welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here. I would say that Hasbara is defined in Israel as explaining or defending Israel's name out there in the world. I might add that I think this name is apologetic and maybe should be reconsidered, but I assume we'll talk about it later.
100%. Hanania.
I have to say that to me, Hasbara, I would define it in one word, love. Because when I defend and advocate for my country, I do it because I love my country. And our enemies, when they advocate against us, it's because they hate us. So to me, Hasbara is love because I advocate out of love, not out of hate.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Well, the Hebrew definition of Hasbara means like to explain, explaining. And for UN Watch, we call it truth-telling. But I would say it's more than that. It's more like, for us, I mean, we like to highlight not only the truth, obviously, but what is missing. Which part of the story you're not being told. Where are the omissions? So, for example, people might ask, well, we at UN Watch, we monitor the UN, and we talk a lot about the disproportionate focus on Israel, all the resolutions against Israel at the UN. So people will ask, well, isn't it legitimate to criticize Israel? And of course, we say, well, no country is above criticism. But if you're looking at Israel, you have to ask, why are there 15 resolutions on Israel? And for example, this year, there's only 13 on other countries. So 60% of the resolutions are on Israel. Why is it that there's no resolutions on countries like China or Cuba or Turkey or Pakistan? Why is it that the resolutions on Israel don't talk about Hamas violations, they don't talk about Palestinian violations against Palestinians? And so we like to raise these questions so that people can see how distorted the picture really is. So I would say it's more than just explaining and truth, it's truth-telling plus.
Excellent. Snare, take it away.
So hello, thank you for the invitation. And I would go on a limb here and say there is no such a word as Hasbara. And people might ask, wow, you are very... I think that we educate the youth. We're trying to show them that they don't need to explain things. They need to show Israel, the beautiful Israel, from their eyes as teenagers. And for them, it could be their day-to-day lives. What they do, they volunteer, they study, they engage with other youth around the world, also social media, even when they play online. And I think that if you try to be more open and show what is going on here. From a very young age, people take you more seriously, you're more genuine, more open, and I think that shows different aspects of Israel, which replaces the need in Hasbara and shows Israel from a different point of view. So this is what we are trying to achieve with our youngsters, and I think it's succeeding.
It's amazing, and it actually really leads to my next question, which is for you, Hanania. Now, you've worked in the Prime Minister's office, of course, and your focus was on, quote-unquote, Hasbara. But, why does Israel even need Hasbara? We're a sovereign country. We should have public diplomacy. Why can't we just be a country like every other?
Wow, I think all of us are asking this question, but I think that our audience, they heard a lot of information, a lot of facts, so I want to maybe answer that through maybe a Jerusalem Christmas story. My personal story. So basically, and I'll keep it short, but basically last month, I filmed a video at the Jaffa Gate, one of my favorite spots, by the way, and I was filming a video for the Iranian cause, and about how we love and support them. After filming, a Palestinian guy with this bicycle that says, I love Jesus, comes up to me, and because it was in public, and he says, Hanania, I used to hate you. I used to wish death upon you, but my heart has changed because I saw that you don't hate Palestinians, you don't hate Arabs, and now I love you. So I think that resonates with the question because it just shows you how vital it is. And it's not just Hasbara, like Ophir said, not being apologetic, not needing to defend ourselves, but it's just telling our story because he lives in Jerusalem and he has an amazing stand juice by the Jaffa Gate. Check it out. But he lives in Jerusalem for 30 years and he was misled. So it shows us that we need to tell our story, and because unfortunately Israel is under this massive campaign of fake information, misinformation, lies. Just yesterday I saw this amazing misleading graphic design of this World Cup, that if Israel was at the World Cup and then they show you Israel shooting like as if we are the bad guys shooting these football players, omitting the fact that actually it was Palestinian terrorists that massacred Israeli athletes during the Munich Olympics of 1972. So it's vital. It's vital, and unfortunately we are in this situation. So I do whatever I can to defend my beloved country.
Amazing, but what is the best method? Because you could say, let's just say everything good about Israel. Let's just put it in a good light, put up a nice video, beach, Tel Aviv. But is that the way to do it? Sneer, why don't you take this one? I mean, how do you do Hasbara, or not Hasbara in your words, in the right way?
So I think, first of all, you should have a lot of knowledge because you need to know what you're talking about. You need to, when people are intrigued with the history of Israel and what's going on here, even if you are a teenager, 16 years old, 17 years old, you need to know what you are answering for, and you need to have the facts right. And this is what we do. Our program is 3 years, and it parallels between their studies. And I think it's a lot to observe, but when they have the knowledge, they can be sure of themselves that they are saying the right things. And also, I think because they are young and social media is something that they're born into, I think that the things that they need to deliver, what they do through social media, and to have multiple force in order to convey their message across the board. And the emphasis is on their Israeli story, because I think this is the key words, their Israeli story, what they want
Their
to...
own personal story.
Yeah, personal stories. It can be very basic one, it can be emotional ones, but this is what they need, they feel the need to deliver to other youngsters their ages across the world. And I think this is the method that will be more practical. Instead of just explaining what we're doing, why we're doing that, show people what is going on through their eyes as youngsters, and I think it works.
Ophir, do you agree with that, or is there another way?
I totally agree with that. I would add a few more things, although I totally agree. Look, I spent 5 years going to school in one of the most anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic college campuses in the world at Columbia University. I got my bachelor's and my master's there. And, you know, it's not a joke. They continuously win, and they work very hard for it. They consistently win the prize for the worst school for Jewish students. And at Columbia, I really was challenged by, you know, having to find a way to tell the story of Israel in a way that would speak to my, you know, my colleagues, whether they be professors or students. And then I realized that I don't need to look far. The story of Israel is the most progressive and the most liberal story there is on college campuses in the world. And I want to briefly, my 30-second elevator pitch of how I define Israel and the story of Israel to my fellow students at Columbia University. Now let me offer you this perspective. It's a story, and by the way, something I believe wholeheartedly. It's a story of an indigenous nation that lived in its land and was kicked out by colonizers, by European Roman colonizers, and then other colonizers as well. And for 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years, they were enslaved, they were persecuted, they were genocide. At the height of it, they were genocide. And it's the only instance in world history where such a people, not to mention even all the difficulties we have been through, managed to liberate themselves and come back to their homeland to reestablish a sovereign state in their homeland. This is the most progressive, most liberal story there is to tell. The most liberal and progressive story. And that's the story we should be telling. Instead of apologizing, instead of, you know, making excuses, just say the truth. And yes, the truth is not pleasant 100% of the time. And sometimes, you know, and I love my country, you can't suspect that I dislike Israel, but we make mistakes, and it's okay to say, you know what? Maybe this checkpoint was a mistake. And maybe we could have treated this Palestinian in a better way. That's not being weak. That's being honest. And the same way that the United States or the UK or Vietnam does mistakes, Israel does mistakes as well. And we should be able to say that because that's the only way we're going to be credible.
Amazing. So I want to do some case studies here, okay? Based on mistakes that we may or may not have made. Al Jazeera takes the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh to the ICC. What should social media influencers like yourself, Hanania, do in such a situation?
First of all, Israel is not perfect. I mean, I'm
It was
shocked.
also news to me.
Shocker.
I'm still digesting.
Because if we follow the UN and the ICC and all these international forums, Israel should be perfect. But I mean, I always ask this question. So, okay, fine, Israel is not perfect. Show me one country that is perfect. You know, maybe Norway, actually. I mean, I visited there twice
but the
this
food,
year. Yeah. But but true. But regarding Al Jazeera and this beautiful topic, I think that what we should do is, first of all, understand that you don't need to have all the information, all the latest technology, the latest MacBook. Just tell the truth. In one of my conversations with the incoming Prime Minister of Israel, actually my first meeting with him I was in this chutzpah situation that I said, you know what, I want to do an interview with the Prime Minister. That was back in 2017. I made it happen. And my first question to him in regards to that was how we can defend Israel against Al Jazeera, against lies, against all this misinformation. And he told me something that was a shocker because it was very simple. He simply said, just tell the truth. We don't need to distort the facts, see how we can do this and that. We just need to tell the story of Israel. And I think that what we can do as influencers and as people with a voice and opinion is to hop on social media. It's the city center of the world where opinions are exchanged and lies are being spread. So by all means, join the conversation. Do what you can. It can be as good as commenting, or as good as sharing a video, as good as talking to a friend. Because a lot of people that I'm talking with who are not Israelis, they tell me that one of the things, they always see stuff against Israel on the feed of their friends. Their friends are sharing. So why aren't we sharing? Let's do that. And there are a lot of facts and misinformation regarding the tragic death of Shireen Abu Akleh, because I think that, first of all, they're trying to portray this as if we Israelis don't care about lives of Palestinians. But I'm here to testify that I'm an Israeli and I love Palestinians. I love my neighbors. I was never taught to hate them. And it's tragic that they're using her death, politicizing her death. No respect to her or her family. That's my opinion.
And, I want to turn to you, Dina, with that, too. I mean, last night there was a report that came out from Honest Reporting where they showed that, in fact, one of the key witnesses is a Islamic Jihad activist that they're planning to bring to the court. UN Watch, of course, is also, working behind the scenes on cases like this and that case. What are you doing in the forefront, behind?
Yeah. Well, I would say we're not specifically working on the Shireen Abu Akleh case, but just if I'm looking at it in my role as the UN Watch legal advisor, I would say UN Watch is focused on exposing the anti-Israel discrimination in the media, in the world, in the UN, okay? Mainly we're focused on the UN, but we're focused on the disproportionate treatment of Israel. So if I'm looking as the UN Watch legal advisor at the case of Shireen Abu Akleh, for example, then I'm asking, okay, why is an organization like Amnesty International taking up the cause of Shireen Abu Akleh and devoting so much attention and resources to this issue, while at the same time they're ignoring all the women who are being intentionally targeted by the Iranian regime because they're not complying with Iran's modesty laws? Why are they focusing so much on this case and yet giving no attention or very little attention to this other situation? Why is it, for example, that if, according to one statistic I saw, they say 67 journalists were killed so far this year. So why is it that this case of Shireen Abu Akleh is taking up so much media attention? I think the number was like 12, at least 12 journalists killed in Ukraine, and that was just one statistic. I'm
13
sure there are many
just
others.
from Al Jazeera alone.
So there you have it. And so why is it that they're just focusing so much on this case of Shireen Abu Akleh? And why is it that you have, whether it's NGOs or the media or UN officials, are so quick to judge and assume that Israel did something wrong in this case? Why is it that Israel is never given the benefit of the doubt? Okay, so that's kind of how UN Watch would look at it. And I'm not trying to minimize. I mean, like Hanania said, it's a tragic death, of course, when any person is killed. But at the same time, you have to understand she was a journalist in a conflict zone. She had placed herself in a dangerous situation. And unfortunately, these things happen. So it's not necessarily, I'm not looking to try to prove or disprove what actually happened. I'm just looking at the bigger picture on what's happening in the world and why is there so much focus on Israel.
Thank you for that. Now, these are all such good ideas, and there's all kinds of things we can float around, make a video, maybe tweet a little bit more. Why aren't you on Instagram? Maybe is there, some formula, some secret sauce, Hanania, for how to use the social networks effectively to help Israel?
I mean, there is, but I'm not gonna reveal it because then everybody is
come
gonna
on,
do
nobody will know. Well, just between us.
Well, okay, so just between us, I think that people need to hear personal stories. I think that the best way to defend Israel, in a way, is to tell stories because people can find facts. There's tons of facts out there, but no one can copy your story. It's yours. When you use your emotions to tell what are you going through, and you don't have to be Israeli or to be here to have to run to bomb shelters. We've all done this, those of us that are in Israel or working in Israel. But for those of you that are abroad, I think that what you can do, you are ambassadors of Israel. And being an ambassador of Israel is being an ambassador of truth and facts. It's not just for Israel. Because whenever I meet with leaders, governors, and people abroad, it's very important to me to stress the fact that now they're going after Israel, but they're not going to stop there. They see Israel as an obstacle. You know, the UN says we're the obstacle to peace. The Palestinian Authority says that. They say that we're the obstacle to, you know, when we are an obstacle, but not to peace, to this flow of radicalism that will flow into Europe and many other continents. So I think that the recipe in just two words is tell your story, tell a story, and keep it short. Third thing, use your emotions. You know, it's a story.
You know, but despite people like you, and don't take this the wrong way, it seems that Israel still might be losing on the social networks. What's your thought on that? Do you feel that we're losing the battle?
I think that's a very good question, because all of us are familiar with anti-Israel people like Bella Hadid, that one post of hers can reach her millions of followers, and I'm only with 2 million. But I think that when we unite together, we need to find what unites us and what we have in common, because it feels like there is a lot of, you know, I wouldn't call it division, but people focus on different things, and it's good, but we need to unite together, because when we're together, we're stronger. I mean, the Second Temple was destroyed because we were divided, and there was no unity. So I think that our strength is in our unity, and that's how we can counter this. And, you know, I believe in God, so I would even say that, you know, God is with us.
Amazing. Snir, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I agree with what Hannah said, and I think that also we need to be more creative in many ways, because we need to deliver our message in a way that people will absorb it better and understand what's going on here. So sometimes it feels that we are alone in this battle, but as Hannah said, if we come together, it will be more easier for us to deliver everything we want. But we also need to think outside of the box and see and do stuff that, even to have courage to do new things and to show them from different aspects, in order to show different things here in Israel on social media as well, because you need to know social media very well and the difference between the platforms in order to use them the best way possible. And there are something that unites all of them, but you should really understand what you're doing in every platform in order to deliver the message the best way possible. So be creative and know what you're doing. This is something important.
Well, let's talk about a man that seemed to do that pretty well in the last few weeks, maybe a month, Kanye West. He's been pretty efficient and effective at delivering his message. I'm wondering, Ophir, if you can actually start with this, you know, to talk about whether or not you think the social media in the end has actually hurt or helped his noble cause.
Well, we have different definitions of noble. I think obviously social media helped his cause. In the end of the day, he wouldn't be amplified the same way if he didn't have social media. Opinions like that in 2022 minus social media would have just been, you know, looked at as outrageous, unacceptable. But now they're finding their way to all these nooks and crannies of anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists all over the world. But on the other hand, they also amplify the voices of those who stand against anti-Semitism, of those Jews who, you know, they really like to say, you know, we need to give voice. No, we have a voice. We need to be empowered to use it. And the social media gives us the tools, the means to use that voice. And I think in that way, that was a positive thing. I would also add that I think that since what he said was so outrageous and so anti-Semitic and blatant in a way that nobody can deny it's anti-Semitic, it kind of shone a light on that issue of anti-Semitism. I don't know if you're aware, but I, as I said, studied 5 years in New York. The Jewish community of New York is the most targeted community in the city of New York, okay? More than 50%, if I'm not wrong, of physical attacks on minorities in New York are directed against the Jewish population. And although I despise Ye, or whatever he calls himself those days, it shone a light on that issue. And people are starting to realize that we can't just brush it aside. We can't ignore it. It's a real issue. And someone like Kanye West, who is maybe the epitome of the American dream, of someone who came from nothing and became everything, and even he is speaking in such a manner, maybe their education system or the way they talk about these issues need rethinking.
100%. So, Ophir, I want to stick with you for just a minute. You mentioned a couple times how you learned at Columbia University, and you became pretty well known. Actually,
I paid a lot of tuition to mention that for so long.
But, you actually became very well known starting in 2018 when you called out the university for saying that they were not protecting you. You felt unsafe because of Palestinian activists on campus, that they were harassing you. Now, here you are 4 years later on the stage talking about how to fight for the state of Israel. But I'd like to go back for a minute and just understand why you think that college campuses have become such a hotbed of anti-Israel sentiment, and why, despite all the things you're saying, is not enough being done about it.
Okay, so I think it's a really, really, really good and very important question because unlike, and don't get me wrong, the image of Israel is very important, but this is the lives of students we're talking about. These people are getting physically hurt. Luckily, not me, because people at Columbia are nerds, but my friends in Canada and in other places that are more aggressive are getting physically injured. So that's really important for me to stress. I think, first of all, I'm going to start with a word that you mentioned during your question, Palestinian activists. Most of the people on college campuses who spew anti-Israel, anti-Semitic opinions are not Palestinian. They are not Arabs. They are not Palestinians. What they are, and I'm really, really sorry to say that, they are Americans and other foreign students who want to feel good about themselves, and they pick and choose what cause they think is the most popular right now, and unluckily for us, it's Israel. So they send all their poisonous arrows at us. The reason I think that college campuses became so unsafe for Jewish students and for pro-Israel students, by the way, really not just Jewish students. I led an organization called Students Supporting Israel. 30% of my membership were not Jewish, and this is something I took a lot of pride in, because as I said earlier, if we manage to liberate themselves, we owe it to other people to serve as inspiration, and if it's a just cause, like Hananya said, they can all and should all join us in advocating for it. But I think college campuses are increasingly becoming unsafe because the administrations are perceiving this issue as political. They are not looking at it as the safety of their students. They're looking they just go about it as approaching a political issue, and they don't want to approach a political issue. The same way they don't want to face the fact that the Columbia Library is called after a slave owner. They don't want to handle the issue of Israel. And that's where they're wrong, because students are getting hurt. I'm going to share one experience that I had, and it's really, I have to say, I got to college at 23 after serving as an officer in the IDF. I was really prepared and honestly not looking for friends. But put in my shoes an 18-year-old American who is looking for friends and wants their college experience. We walked out of an event, and my university, with no other way to describe it, with a lot of intention and thought, they placed two events at the same building. One, white supremacist. B, my event hosting Titi Anau, a black, Jewish, Ethiopian lady, okay? A white supremacist, a black, Jewish lady at the same building. So there was a protest going outside against the white supremacists, and when we walk out, we were caught in the middle of it. Obviously, all the protesters knew who we are, so they surrounded us. We were 3 people left at the event to organize, and 60 of them. And we're in the middle of this circle, and they're screaming and chanting from the river to the sea, which, kind of mean throwing us into the ocean. And public safety were standing there and doing nothing. And later, when I complained to the university, their answer was, put public safety on your speed dial. And I said, but they were standing right there and did nothing. And I think the politics issue of Israel is preventing them from safeguarding their students. I know it was long, I'm just going to say one more sentence. And because Hananya said something that really reminded me of this. I did everything I did against Columbia because I love Columbia. It's a great institution. Pro-Israel students shouldn't be afraid to attend Ivy League universities or great universities because they're afraid to be pro-Israel. And I did everything I did because I love Columbia and I wanted to be a better place for pro-Israel and Jewish students. And everything we do, we need to do it from that reason. Sorry, that was long.
So, Snir, you're also working with young people, young leaders, really. Tell us, what you're doing through the center, the Israeli Center for Young Leaders, and just about your work and how it's making a difference.
Okay, that's a great question, by the way. And I think that what we are doing in the Israeli Center for Young Leaders, we are trying to educate and give the proper tools for youngsters to be a better version of themselves and to speak openly and freely about what they're really interested in, but to have the right tools to stand in front of an audience and speak and to deliver their message, and how to debate the best way possible, and how to even write professional speeches and deliver them across the board. And also regarding the knowledge of the history of Israel and what like international affairs and the relations between Israel and other countries. And I think that what we are striving to do is to prepare them to deal with much more complicated reality and to get them out of the bubble, out of the comfort zone, and to deal with things that also grown-ups sometimes cannot. And I think that youngsters have the will and they have the courage and also they have the right tools to do so. And we are there to escort them and to educate them the best way possible in order for them to change and to be also leaders in their own communities. It starts from school. It also involves other activities, social activities they're engaged in. And I think in the larger circle, they're also doing it for their country because they care. Sometimes you see a teenager, 16 years old, and you say, what can he do that, a grown-up cannot? And I think the answer is a lot, because they're thinking outside of the box. They see things that are sometimes we cannot, and in a very different way. But they need the right tools and to say what they feel and to show it. And this is what we do at our center for more than 12 years now. And also, I think that what is really important is for them to meet other youngsters abroad. So up until now, we had more than 55 delegations all over the world, and we are meeting not just the Jewish communities, but also the non-Jewish communities. And we're engaging in roundtables, speaking very openly about different topics, also related to Israel, but from a different perspective. It's more easier to digest when you don't necessarily come head on and say, you know why, this is why you need to love Israel. This is why you need to fight hate speech. No, you need to do it very gently. You need to do it to look at their eye level and to speak freely and openly. And I think that it works. And by the way, what Ophir said, we've been to Colombia. We've been invited to, I think, Israel Day. It was amazing because our guys, our teenagers, saw and had a glimpse of what an academic institution, like such an honored academic institution, is really all about. But I think that in generally, I remember that they stood out there and they started dancing and singing, also Hebrew songs. And it was amazing because the students got engaged and it was amazing. It was so simple, yet everybody saw it. And I think that they're very naive in a way that it's really cute sometimes, because you say, I didn't think about it. It's so easy, so I'll tag along, and it works. So I think that the front of the Israeli youth is a strategic section that we need to take under consideration when we are showing Israel and we are doing Hasbara and things like that.
And just to clarify, Israeli Youth for your program are teenagers in high school?
Yes, they're in high school, when they finish, they go to the army. But after that, they're coming back and they're helping us in the center. Some of them are becoming instructors as well. So we are broadening the circle each year, and up until now we have more than 16,000 alumni. So it's. In different languages, of course, and everybody. Seriously, everybody talks a very high level of English and other languages because they need to deliver the message across. So, thank you, Nitzan, for the remark.
Important points over there. We could have a whole session just talking about all of the places and the challenges that we face in pretty much almost every university in social media networks. But there's one place that I think is consistent, and that is the United Nations. And we do have the privilege of having Dina here with us. It's very interesting if you just look in the recent time. We have the acknowledgement of Nakba Day. We have the affirmation that the Israeli occupation is unlawful under international law. But we have great organizations, lobbying, working. We have fact-telling, people telling their stories, but we can't crack the code. Why not?
Well, first of all, that's, an excellent question. I can't tell you that I have the exact answer, but let me just give you a little bit of background about what's happening. As we speak, the United Nations General Assembly is in the middle of its 77th session. They're voting on resolutions right now. December is when they have their main voting session. And like I said earlier, they're set to adopt this year 15 resolutions on Israel, 13 on the rest of the world, which is actually a higher number than in the past. And the reason that is because they have at least 5 resolutions condemning Russia for its war on Ukraine. But for example, like I said, there's no resolutions on China, Cuba, Saudi Arabia. There's, 1 resolution on Syria, 1 on North Korea, 1 on Iran. And I think, that's really a very good question that we would all love to know the answer to. And a big part of it, I would say, is, unfortunately, is the automatic anti-Israel majority at the UN. Now, the resolutions on Israel, they come from the Palestinians. They're supported by the Arab and Islamic states.
But why not with the Abraham Accords, with Azerbaijan? Why is it not changing?
Yeah. So, the Abraham Accords are great. They've brought a lot of positive changes. Unfortunately, we're not seeing it that much at the UN. A little bit. We do see that a little bit at the Human Rights Council, where some of those countries like the UAE and Bahrain have really toned down their statements against Israel during the Agenda Item 7, which is the agenda item at the Human Rights Council that focuses exclusively on Israel, where all other countries are addressed by in a different agenda item. But I also want to say it's not just the Palestinians, it's not just the Arab states. You have to also look at the Western and democratic countries at the UN, because you have countries like the US and Canada, which have excellent, overall voting records on Israel, on the Israel resolutions. But then there are many European countries whose voting records are not great on Israel. The European countries, they generally support like 70% of the anti-Israel resolutions at the UN. And the German Foreign Office actually has a very interesting statement on their website where they explain that because they get involved in the negotiations on these resolutions, so they're able to reduce the number of resolutions. Like in the past there were 20 or 21, now there's only 15, or improve the text. Like, for example, there's a resolution called the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine, where they were able to get, a line added condemning rocket attacks on Israeli civilians. Of course, it doesn't mention Hamas. There's no perpetrators mentioned. The whole rest of the resolution, which might be 4 or 5 pages, is strongly condemning Israel, so it's clearly a biased, one-sided resolution. But this give and take that they have with the Palestinians on the negotiations enables them it's like the price they pay for getting these improvements, you know, is that in the end they support the resolution.
So I want to just because we're running out of
Yeah,
time, and I
no.
think people are getting hungry.
Okay.
We didn't talk fast enough, so here we just want to make some, final statements because the topic of our panel is Hasbara, marketing and public diplomacy. What needs to be explained? If you could tell all of these incredible Christian media friends and influencers here in the room one thing about Israel that can stick with them and that they can carry back to their own media outlets, what would it be? Sneer, you start. And we'll just go down the line.
So I think that what people need to know is that we want people to see Israel in a different way, in a more real kind of way. So we need to invest a lot in order to show it. And I think that all of us here at the panel are doing it in different ways, but we all doing it together. And we need the help of the media outlet in order to make it public and multiply the message across all the news outlets. And I think
1 point.
yeah, sorry.
Dina, your turn.
All right. So what I think that the thing that I would like you to remember the most is that Israel is a democracy. Israel has a free and fair elections. We have free press. We have an independent judiciary, and there's just no comparison between that and a dictatorship that doesn't have any of that. So, you can criticize Israel. Sometimes, of course, there's legitimate criticism that can be directed at Israel, but Israel has the opportunity, it gives its citizens the opportunity to, make change. We have protests. And you just can't compare to, other countries.
Free, fair, and frequent elections.
Yes, I forgot to mention that.
Hanania, go ahead.
I would just say thank you. That's what I want to do, to thank you for your continuous support. And, if I can stress a request, if I can have this right to ask anything from you, it's just to bring Israel to the next generation, because it feels like people that are young, they think that supporting Israel is not cool. But look at me. I mean, I'm young. I feel,
Definitely cool.
I feel 80, but, I'm kidding. Supporting Israel is very important, and the youth, people our age, they need to understand that it is vital for their future as well.
Okay, I only have 10 words, so I'm going to use that 20 seconds to say that I'm going to run for a meeting at work after this, so you can look me up on social media or email me at ophelia94@gmail.com. And now my 10 words. Israel is the only place where Jews aren't colonizers. Okay, that's my 10 words. If you take anything from it, this is the only place we truly belong. That's it. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you all.